Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Guys Podcast and Product J. Purpose President. And now your hosts, Josh Hammerling and Max Woodwire.
Welcome back. Happy new President Day. Happy January 20th. Donald Trump sworn in as the 45th, now 47th President of the United States. J.D. Vance sworn in as the 50th Vice President of the United States. Joe Biden, Dr. Jill Biden, sent off into the sunset. Josh, I don't know. Did you see Melania Trump's dress today? Her outfit?
She was wearing she looked elegant.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: is
Elegant.
where's E on those old shows on fashion where they would sit there and talk about people's clothes? I mean, they should probably be sitting there because she's probably wearing something that's phenomenal. I don't know who the designer is, but she looked amazing. She's gorgeous.
Yeah.
I mean, it reminds you of Jacqueline Kennedy, right? Back in the day when she carried that air of amazing, same thing.
With her in the White House, who's going to turn the curtains and drapes into dresses? My favorite thing to do, I did a few times, is zoom in on a picture of Jill Biden's dress to the pattern and do a Google Lens search, and it would pop up furniture, upholstery. It would pop up drapes, curtains.
Really?
Yeah, not with Melania. Not going to find tablecloths. Not going to find any of that with her. Truly, truly elegant. Donald Trump sworn in. We're not going to recover. Everyone's watched it. If you're watching this show, you've watched the inauguration.
Yeah.
You watched the speech. You watched for 30 minutes. He savaged Obama. Even a little bit of Clinton, if you look at what he was talking about. He did that at the end, too, when he was talking to the other room. It was very funny. The first speech was perfect on teleprompter. Second speech, rambling Trump. And it's almost like he has an agreement with his speechwriters. One for you, one for me.
One for me. Yeah, and I bet you sometimes he's just like, you know what? I'm going off here. And he just jumps on his own tangent.
Well, do you know what happened in the second one? I was getting calls. My dad called me. He's like, someone's got to pull him off the stage. He's rambling too much. He's saying he's got to go. Because he was going on a little bit. What happened was he gets out there and he sees that Greg Abbott was in the overflow room. Greg Abbott was supposed to be in the atrium. He's the governor of Texas, largest state. Yeah. And he's sitting there in the overflow room with not the peasants, but with not the governors, not the senators, not the congressmen. And I think Trump was shocked and he kind of threw him off and he went into a little diatribe giving him his due while I give him some FaceTime. But yeah, no, Trump is hard at work already. We got the CBP One app is officially shut down. That's done. That was the app that Biden had set up so that illegal aliens could schedule flights into the country, could schedule appointments to be caught and released. That's shut down.
That's just
and
crazy.
This is what the border looks like in El Paso right now.
Beyond this point will result in the arrest, prosecution, and possible application of force.
That
possible
is
application of force.
A possible application of force. That is a night and day. And they started doing this before Trump was even sworn in, just by saying, yeah, no, we know what he's going to want. Mm-hmm. We haven't gotten the order yet, but I think we know what he wants. Let's just do this.
Max,
go ahead.
Go ahead. I was going to say, the United States has been in a secret war now since the 90s, and it has to do with illegal immigration. Because once the overflow was noticed, there's no telling what's here. And it's been a war that nobody's fought. It's been a war that a lot of people didn't pay attention to. And it's a war that people finally have a taste for, so much so that they voted for Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Right? This is scary. Not what I see here is great. This is how you protect a border. What's scary is 2 billion people coming over every month.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that's happened is Donald Trump announced I almost just said State of the Union because it felt like a State of the Union.
It sure did.
Usually, inaugural addresses are more lofty, goals, overall themes. He's like, no, I'm doing this. I said I'd do this. Doing this in 5 minutes. I'll do this in an hour. Later today, he's going to Capital One Arena, which is a hockey arena. I believe it's where the Capitals play. And there's going to be 20,000 people there. They've set up a little desk. Let me see if I can find a picture of the desk.
And he's
they set up a little desk. They just added the presidential seal to the desk. It wasn't on there earlier. Let me. So here's the.
This is where they're at.
Oh no!
This is exciting. Though. So he's just rolling into an arena, right?
He's rolling right into the arena. So that is the desk. They just put the presidential seal on it while he was being inaugurated, and this is the kind of arena. It's just got a desk. That's it. Got a desk. Now they've got risers for choirs that are going to perform. I think they're going to have some bands in there because this is basically the parade. Yeah. Say, hey, we're not doing an outside parade. All of these acts and things are going to come in here, sing, play music, whatever. And then they had this desk. Now, as I just said, now it has the presidential seal on it. It couldn't before. Now it does. And he's going to sit there and he's going to sign between 100 and 200 executive orders.
And imagine the optics of that in front of your constituency, doing the very things you said you would do and get rid of, right? And to make it like a day. Like, this is an unheard of move by Trump. It's the most humanizing thing, I think. Yeah. And
it's so Trump, though. Yeah. It's so Trump, though. Right? And Biden made headlines 4 years ago when he signed 15 executive orders. It's almost like Donald Trump said, okay, we're going to 10X it. And we're going to do it in an arena. And we're going to do it with all the cameras rolling, national television. It's going to be good. And just before we leave the border, the media is already trying to do what the media does. Pull on heartstrings. They were there waiting to capture the first woman who was supposed to have an appointment for parole. That's the bullshit of this. If you're an illegal alien, they're having an appointment to be paroled, to be let go and be forgiven. This illegal alien just figured out that she's not going to be allowed to move into the United States and stay. They shut down the app completely. Oh,
poor thing.
Oh, pobrecita. Listen, she knew Trump was coming. He said he was going to do this. She tried to sneak in a couple minutes beforehand. She was hoping she could get that last spot. I mean, kudos to her. She tried, but no sympathy, no sadness. You're not allowed in. You are not allowed in. You do not qualify for asylum. You are an economic migrant who just wants to live somewhere else because it's better for you economically. Congratulations. The whole world can say that. You don't get to just come in because you think you can make more money here. That's not what asylum's for. Asylum is for people fleeing political persecution, natural disasters, right? Man-made disasters, genocide, ethnic cleansing. That's what it's for. Not someone who says, hey, you know what? Better to live in the United States than Guatemala. Not how it works. If that was true, then every person on the globe would qualify for asylum. So no, you gotta go back. Bye-bye.
And I got a feeling Holman's just going to be tough as nails on this. Like, it sends you home, you know?
Yeah.
And they've committed a crime just coming over the border. I can't just go to Mexico and decide to stay. I'll get arrested, thrown in a Mexican prison, and deported. I mean, it's the norm when you want to have normal borders. It's how you also don't bring in culture pieces that are often violent. I talk to a woman every day almost about who is from Peru, talking about the violence she faced in the streets, and she legally came in the 90s to get away from it all, right? And the work she put in, and how often, the joy she got the day she became an American citizen, and she's pissed off that there's just some people walking over the border, bringing that violence with them, right? Yeah. She says that made that she thinks the difference was that it was Latinos living in America who came in the right way that swung everything, and I just sat there and I'm like, you're right. I mean, you're right.
Yeah. So this is going to be shut down. You proclaimed it'll be the policy of the United States that there are only two genders, male and female.
Yeah, that's
my son asked me, what did that mean? Because they're home because they have no school today. And I said, there's only boys and there's only girls and there's no in-betweens. He says, yeah. So even if a 7-year-old gets it, he also thought there were only 4 presidents because he was very confused. He says, like the president's face is on the rock. He's talking about Mount Rushmore.
Oh, okay. That's fine. That's the beauty of being a child, right? And you're sitting there.
He's in first grade. Yeah. He's figuring it out. He's figuring it out. But a lot of good stuff to come today. A lot of executive orders. We'll do a show on it when they're all finalized because I think some are still in that phase of being finalized. But we got to talk about what Biden slipped through in the final hours and final minutes of his presidency, a string of pardons. And before we do, good news, Donald Trump has gotten his first presidential Diet Coke.
First of many tonight. Like, I bet you the fridge at the White House is loaded.
I think he's already drank that commemorative Diet Coke. I think he's already drank it.
God, I hope he did. I hope he recorded himself doing it too. Like, I would love to see that.
One of one. So this is what Joe Biden signed earlier. Joe Biden, yada, 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 pardoning General Mark A. Milley for any offenses against the United States from now to January 1st, 2014. Why that? Because that's a 10-year statute of limitations. And he's saying that basically they're doing this so that Trump can't go back to something he did 10 years ago and punish him for it. That's crazy. That's not saying that he deserves to be forgiven. That's saying he doesn't deserve to be held accountable for anything. And you'll notice the trend here, not naming the actual offenses. Also, for Dr. Anthony Fauci, full and unconditional pardon for all offenses, again, through January 1st, 2014. They'd only be able to prosecute him for anything over than 10 years, which is like capital murder, things like that. Then, with 15 minutes to go before done, we get this one from Joe Biden. A grant of clemency pardons, full and unconditional pardon to James Biden, Sarah Jones Biden, Valerie Biden Owens, John T. Owens, and Francis W. Biden for any non-violent offenses against the United States which they may have committed or taken part in during the period from January 1st, 2014 through the date of this pardon. And you'll notice there is something different about this pardon than the other ones. This one specifies for any non-violent offenses. But for some reason, Fauci and Milley got for any offenses.
Yeah.
So Joe Biden should have had to answer this. A man with cojones, with balls, would do this in the light of day and would go out and deliver a press conference and answer for it. Right? Explain to the American people why you think it's necessary. Not sign it in the White House, tell your staff, okay, release this in a couple hours. Be pleasant with Trump, right? Bring Trump in for tea, ride in the beast with Trump to the Capitol, walk into the rotunda, and then your staff announces it. Right? Obviously, they were trying to slip it in, beat the media cycle. You can't beat that. You can't pardon your entire crime family. And he's trying to see. He said in explanation that this is not an admission of guilt.
Sure.
That's not an admission of guilt. But the funny thing is that when his own Department of Justice was in front of courts this past month, and January 6th defendants were saying, hey, we're going to be pardoned. How about we just pause this whole thing? Biden's own DOJ said, quote, a pardon at some unspecified date in the future would not unring the bell of conviction. In fact, quite the opposite. The defendant would first have to accept the pardon, which necessitates a confession of guilt.
Wait a minute. So if all the Bidens accepted their pardon, does that mean they're guilty of something? Like, what would that be? A nonviolent offense, right? So what? Maybe like bribery or money laundering or maybe selling the office of the vice president of the United States or the president. I mean, who knows?
This Supreme Court case, Burdick v. United States, 1915, is where we get this notion that a pardon implies guilt and an admission of guilt. Innocent people can't be pardoned because you look at the actual pardon language itself, it says any offenses. There have to have been offenses because you're not pardoning the person, you're pardoning the offenses, right? Biden's trying to blanket pardon the people. That's not how it works. You pardon the offenses. And Biden says there were offenses.
I see the line of thinking on this one, right? Because you can only forgive the offense, which means that they accept the pardon. There was some sort of offense that was committed just by act of it. And then there's the judicial history of saying, yeah, in order to get one of these, you have to have committed a crime. So my next line of questioning is what crimes were committed? Yeah. When were they committed? And now there's no Fifth Amendment protection, like you pointed out on this show before.
No Fifth Amendment protection.
Like, who do you start squeezing at this point? Who's the weakest link?
Here's the steps. The weakest link is Milley. Milley's the weakest link because while this is true, he's just been pardoned for federal offenses. The process for military commutation is a little bit longer. He still would be pardoned for military offenses, but it actually goes through a process where the military reviews it, sees if he qualifies, and then says, okay, fine. So Milley, let's talk about how we can still hold these people accountable, right?
Yeah.
Milley can be recalled to active duty. He's a recent retiree. Donald Trump can say, because of your expertise, I am recalling you in a time of national emergency. You're coming back to active duty. Okay. He has to show up. If he doesn't, he's AWOL. He goes to prison. That's an offense after the pardon. He shows up. You say, oh, congratulations, Milley. Your prize is completely being stripped of your rank. Congratulations, you're a private. I can't throw you in prison, but guess what you're doing? You're going to spend, at the very least, the next year cleaning latrines in the dirtiest army bases on the planet. You're on latrine duty. You are going to go to forward operating bases in Africa, and you are going to dig the latrines, and you're going to empty them. Right? We've all seen the war movies. Even in actual bases, cleaning the toilets, you could make him clean the toilets. You could.
I was going to say we'd really need to rely on the Marines for this one. I think they could make a bigger mess than any of the other branches. So let's send them there. Yeah.
But this is how you can still get creative with holding him accountable. Because remember, his crime is treason. It was treason. In Trump's final days in office, he called up his Chinese counterparts and he said, don't worry, if Donald Trump gives an order to attack China, I won't let him do it.
Didn't he go AWOL?
That's treason. Yeah. That's treason.
Oh my God.
No, that was he might have. That's treason. We also know he kept things deliberately from President Trump.
Which is insane.
He kept how many US soldiers were in Syria because he thought if Donald Trump knew how many soldiers were in Syria, he would pull them out of Syria. So how do you stop him from pulling them out of Syria? Oh, just don't tell them they're there.
That's insane. That's dereliction of duty at that point.
That is violating the chain of command. That's a violation of the Uniform Military Code of Justice. But the calling your Chinese counterpart and saying, don't worry, I promise I will stop him from attacking China if he orders it.
Aid and comfort.
That is aid and comfort to the enemy. That is treasonous.
Wow. And let's not forget.
Open, closed.
He got sick a couple times as SecDef and decided to just not tell anyone.
Different guy. That's Lloyd Austin.
Oh, Austin. I'm thinking of Millie. Mark Milley. Yeah. I'm sorry.
I'll get his picture. They just took his picture down.
Yeah, I thought we were talking about Austin for a moment there. And I was like, dude, he would have gotten court-martial for that. Oh, Milley.
Yeah,
it was
Milley.
That's Milley.
There he is.
Wow. So he gets pardoned for all that? Really?
So, what you can do is you could bring him in. You can call him in to testify before the Armed Services Committee. And you can say, what offenses did you commit against the United States?
Yeah.
And he has to either answer two things. He has to either admit what he did or say, I didn't commit any offenses. Oh, you're innocent, so you decline to accept the pardon.
Yeah. That'd be the next logical step.
That's the next logical step. Then, if he accepts the pardon, he cannot plead the fifth, as you mentioned, to avoid self-incrimination. So then you have to lead them into a perjury trap. The way you get these people is the way that they tried to get Donald Trump and Donald Trump Jr. and all these other Trump administration officials. You subpoena the documents, hold the hearings, and then try and lead them into somewhere where they'll lie because they don't want to admit to something.
So it's procedural crime at that point. I mean, you're just banking on the lie. Like you lied to federal officers, right? You lied to a federal agent about this afterwards, right? And so because the worst thing I thought is that they're just sitting here laughing in the faces of justice, laughing in our faces, thinking there's nothing we can do about it. And that pissed me off so bad today, man, because that's how it felt. Like that would be the biggest insult one could do on their way out of the White House, man. It's unbelievable.
This is kind of cool. Let me put this on screen for a second. We got Trump is let me see if I can turn the volume up a little bit. You hear it at all? Let me try.
I had it before.
What about? I guess they just cut off.
Yeah.
It's a cool little thing where they've got that going on. Oh, I changed the way I was sharing my screen. It's just
I love that.
The flutes.
Yeah.
And he's just overlooking it. Melania's hat. He said something very funny at his second speech that Melania almost blew away. The wind almost blew her. We almost lost our first lady. You told the story about the shoes. It was great. Yes. He pardoned Mark Milley. Who else did he pardon? He pardoned
Mark Milley. I forgot all about Mark Milley.
He pardoned all of the Capitol police officers who testified before the January 6th committee.
Wow.
Why would you have to pardon them? Because that January 6th committee was used to lock up Steve Bannon.
Yeah.
Right? It was used to go after
Roger
a
Stone.
lot of people.
Roger Stone.
Yeah, well, no, he was a little bit earlier, but it's been used to go after a bunch of people.
Sure.
The testimony has been used in criminal cases where January 6th defendants have now been locked up. Basically, what he said is these Capitol police officers lied before the January 6th committee.
Yeah.
That's the only reason.
Yeah.
That's the only reason to pardon them. If their testimony was true and accurate, which is what your whole narrative has been, that January 6th was this terrible assault on the Capitol, why do you have to pardon people for their testimony before that committee?
Well, I mean,
they
obviously, they had to, because the video evidence would probably show something different than the testimony evidence, right? And thank goodness we saved all the video. I don't think
Otto von Wienis is back. Your side is going to be arrested for stealing the 2024 election with the help of Starlink. Our side, Otto von Wienis, is currently watching the military parade through the Capitol building. So, not going to happen. Not going to happen at all. But it is so cute. It is so cute to watch these leftists lose their mind. Like yesterday, there was this thing where Donald Trump was like, oh, we love Elon Musk. He's so brilliant with computers. And we sent him to Pennsylvania, and he blew the whistle about election fraud, and we won with a huge margin. And the left says, see, he admitted that they stole the election in Pennsylvania. And you watch it, and you're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, what? How could you make that jump? It is the worst confirmation bias I've ever seen. To believe something so wholeheartedly, like Otto von Wienis claims he does, and other leftists do, and then they see something and say, "Oh yeah, I sent Elon Musk to Pennsylvania. He helped us win it. Oh, that means they stole it."
Yeah,
it's very funny, but your tears are delicious, Otto. This was a day Otto von Wienis said months ago would never come.
Yeah.
I'm just glad he didn't off himself in the meantime. We haven't seen him in a few weeks. I'm glad to know he's still ticking.
Yeah.
Because I thought maybe he would have took a premature departure with how passionate he was about Trump not winning.
Yeah. He was fervent. And I want to go to the J6 thing again, because didn't Trump in one of the speeches start saying they got rid of all the evidence? They got rid of all the evidence. Yep. They got rid of all the videos, right? So it makes me wonder why they're handing out pardons to the police officers involved, and they're destroying all the evidence. I mean, that alone would, if I was on trial and the defense destroyed the evidence that might exonerate me as a client, the court would assume that, there would be no evidence to the contrary, right? They just can't destroy evidence. So,
this guy is insane. You are insane. Otto von Wienes. You are absolutely insane. And I actually feel sorry. He says we want to see trans kids murdered. I feel sorry for people like you because you are so obviously deranged. Like the logical leap, like, oh, Donald Trump said there's only boys and only girls, and that's going to be the policy of the United States government. And to jump from that to this, I feel for you, but I'm really nervous because this stochastic terrorism that you're trying to foment, that Donald Trump and conservatives are trying to murder trans kids, that has an obvious purpose, right? Well, what do you do to stop a murderer? You use force, right? I mean, talk about the Nashville shooter. Same kind of deal. I mean, what you're writing is right out of that trans shooter's manifesto, the Tranifesto, as we call it. You've got a head on those shoulders. I'll tell you, this is a weird brain. This is a weird brain.
It's just old school communist talk.
Yeah,
But
that's why they pardoned Liz Cheney. That's why they pardoned the entire January 6th Select Committee and all of their staffers.
No.
Yes. So basically, a blanket pardon. Anything they did can't be prosecuted. But everyone who was prosecuted by the committee, their thing still stands. Like, to pardon someone and say, hey, you're forgiven for your perjury, and to not also pardon the people who went to jail because of the perjury is insane. I mean, they believe that they operate on this ridiculous moral high ground.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to watch. Go ahead.
I got to ask you a question. All right. So let's say I'm a committee person. I get this blanket pardon. What's to stop me from writing a book saying my last 24 hours in the Biden White House or something like that? Could they just write a book? Because there's no longer worry of any penalties of the law. So could they just write books, make money off the back of this?
O.J. Simpson, if I did it, this is how I would have done it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could do it.
Wow. But
also,
the gravity of that, holy shit.
But also, just a month ago, these people were calling for Biden to drone strike Mar-a-Lago and said the Supreme Court says you're allowed to do it because you have presidential immunity. So, like, the other side of this is how much you want to run your mouth in a world with presidential immunity.
That's wild stuff, man. These pardons are not just they're beyond unprecedented. It feels like some sort of aristocrat, giving a pardon to all his best buddies and friends that made up a bunch of money on the back of the American people.
Yeah.
It's always going to feel that way, right?
But here's more Wienes. Here's more Otto von Wienes. He says, your side's the violent one. They tried to overthrow the government in 2020 by force. Let's just imagine that's true.
Okay.
What does it say about a country that sees that and reelects Donald Trump? Now, it wasn't a ballot issue. But if what you said is true, and Lord knows everyone knew about January 6th, media didn't let anyone not know about it, right? On election day, there were people typing into Google, wait, what happened to Joe Biden? Why isn't Joe Biden on the ballot? That's true. There was no one typing into Google, what happened on January 6th? Everyone knew that. So what does it say about a country that sees that? And even if it was true, which I deny it's not true, elects Donald Trump anyway.
In record numbers.
Winning every swing state, winning the popular vote, which is a BS metric, but one that Democrats have used in recent years to decide who is actually the real winner, right? Mm-hmm. What does it say about those people? Well, obviously, it says about those people, they don't give a shit about that, at the very least. At worst, they actually supported it. And they said that it was bullshit the way that the January 6th committee, who, by the way, all just got pardons. January 6th committee, I've never seen so many people occupy the moral high ground and then beg for a pardon. Right? Like, usually it's the people down in the muck doing the dirty work. These people literally put themselves on pedestals. So, oh no, we are the righteous. We are the just. We defend the institutions, damn it. and we're going to protect our democracy. And oh, by the way, can you give me a pardon?
You got a little bit of pardon stuff on you, dog?
I may have actually perjured myself. I may have actually tampered with witnesses. I may have actually destroyed evidence. Oopsie daisy. But it was for a good cause.
So what?
And that's the problem with the left. They truly believe that they occupy this moral high ground where they are allowed to do these ends justify the means bullshit. Right? It doesn't matter that we destroyed the evidence. It doesn't matter that we tampered with witnesses. It doesn't matter that we perjured ourselves. We were doing it because they challenged the election results, which you'll notice Otto von Wienis is doing in our comment section. Mm-hmm. Apparently, this is the worst crime someone can commit against a democratic institution. Deny its legitimacy.
Wow. We learned that in the last 4 years.
Yeah.
Hold on. So who else did he hand those pardons out? I read that Fauci got one, and if Fauci got one, so that opens a whole new can of worms.
Fauci got one, 10 years. Notice it doesn't say for all nonviolent offenses. It pardons him for nonviolent and violent offenses alike.
What does that mean? What would be a violent offense? Like knowing something in a vaccine?
We're still on YouTube right now, so this is purely a hypothetical.
Okay.
But given the fact that this pardon stretches back to the creation of the relationship between Anthony Fauci, NIH, and the Wuhan coronavirus lab, it might have something to do with that. It might. Now, I'm not saying
that
it does.
Talk of the gain of function research? Yeah, I mean...
I'm just spitballing. Again, YouTube, not sharing any misinformation. We're just trying to understand what offense did Anthony Fauci commit in the last 10 years? Because this pardon says offenses. And if he didn't commit a crime, the pardon's unnecessary. So this is where we're in a weird place of like the misinformation, disinformation, YouTube censorship.
Yeah.
He pardoned him for a crime, but it's a violation of YouTube's like code of conduct to allege that he committed a crime.
Which is what you got to be careful what you say, or any key words, right? It's just like, oh my gosh.
Otto von Wienis says, I have white guilt for what my ancestors did. You have to be a sociopath not to. Well, I will accept your apology, Otto von Wienis. I am a little bit Native American. The Lenni Lenape tribe from the Delaware River Basin. My family traces its roots back to New Jersey, all the way back to the 1600s. I have Native American ancestry. Not predominantly, but more than Elizabeth Warren, we'll put it that way. So Otto von Wienis, I humbly accept your white guilt, and I will await the transmission of the reparations funds from your bank account to my bank account, because obviously you'd want to put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah. I'm kind of hoping Otto von Small Wienis is just like a group or something. Ooh, look at that.
J. Otto is a filthy election denier. Yeah.
Oh.
It is as I crack another Dos Equis, because today's a day of celebration, damn it.
Yeah. Today I thought about actually having a drink. I was like, man, I've got this old
Donald Trump doesn't
there.
drink. He says no drinking, no smoking, no drugs.
No
I
tattoos.
don't smoke. I don't do drugs, but damn it, we're going to drink today. So you won't be able to see it with my green screen. It'll become a little bit invisible. But, today's a day of celebration. But it's also a day of trying to get to the bottom of, again, we'll go back to what did Anthony Fauci do in the last 10 years? Again, look at this pardon from what he did for his family members. His family members were only pardoned for non-violent offenses. So I guess that's him being sure that his family members weren't murderers. But non-violent offenses. What did Fauci do that was violent, that warranted him to get 10-year blanket pardon for violent or non-violent offenses? Anthony Fauci should be forced to answer to that. He should be dragged in to testify. What was this pardon for?
Right, and Rand Paul was all over him for the very beginning. So did he lie to Congress on any of that stuff? Could that be one of those offenses? I mean, he did. I mean, they proved about...
We proved it. We've proven it. He lied to Congress.
Yeah. I mean, so what did he know? When did he know it? And what's going to happen?
Otto von Wienis, he's not my president. Wait to see what President Harris has to say. President Harris is currently aboard an Air Force flight that is entirely staffed by women. Her last act as vice president was to literally shove DEI down our throats.
Interesting.
And I just hope that everyone aboard that flight is fully capable of operating that piece of machinery and didn't get elevated because of DEI initiatives. I would never want to fly in a plane that had a DEI ground staff or DEI pilot. Any of that? No, of course not.
Yeah, right.
I want to have a pilot who's the best.
I don't want a repeat of LA, right? Firefighters that don't know how to fight and can't carry a person, that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to get her take on this, Otto, because she is probably already shit-faced passed out.
Oh, she was probably lit at the ceremony.
Knowing what we know about Kamala Harris, she's already, 3 sheets to the wind. She is done. Probably. She's eaten the worm at the bottom of the bottle.
She's tequila girl? Is that what it is?
No, but figuratively.
Yeah, okay.
She's gone through her $3 chuck, whatever it is she drinks, and she's out. She's out.
Right, comes right out of the box.
And she's going back to California to be queen over the wasteland. So good luck. Good luck.
I shouldn't laugh at that, right? I feel bad for her, but it's true. She's going
not
back
going
to
to build
wasteland.
Anyone's houses. She's not going to build anyone's house. She's going to lord over the wasteland. Go for it.
Disgusting.
Go for it.
Man, there's just so many people that got pardons today that you sit and wonder. You're like, man, we were pretty sure. We felt like they had committed crimes. We could never prove it.
Yeah.
So does the pardon prove the crime? I mean, that's really the heart of the conversation here, right? Did they do it? What did they do? Hey, what if Rand Paul pulls Fauci in and puts him in front of Congress? If
he purges himself now about previous offenses, he's good to go. Another thing is, it's never been tested whether a president can give a blanket pardon. It's never been tested, constitutionally. It's never been tested. We've just kind of assumed it.
Because they would have to name the offense in each offense to forgive the crime, right? That's what you mean by the language on it.
Yes.
But this is full and unconditional, he's granted.
Full and unconditional for anything you've done, and no one has the right to know what you did. That's kind of the kicker, right? We don't know what Anthony Fauci did, but apparently he just got pardoned for it. So the way the left is operating now is they say, oh, well, this pardon means he can't even be investigated. He can't be investigated. Bullshit. He can't be indicted. He can't be charged. He can't be sent to trial, and he can't be convicted because he's been pardoned. And the logic is, oh, what's the point of going through that whole process if he can't actually be punished for the crime? The point of going through the whole process is to, A, identify co-conspirators who haven't been pardoned, because there were a lot of people working at NIH who didn't get pardons.
Yeah.
And B, get the truth out there. The American people have the right to know. They have the right to know what the Biden crime family has done for the last 10 years to justify blanket pardons. And just so we're clear, we've gone through this on the show before. Everyone in this pardon list, let me pull it up again. Everyone, where is it? Here we go. Everyone in this pardon list, James Biden, Sarah Jones Biden, Valerie Biden Owens, John T. Owens, Francis Biden, all of these people had access to the bank accounts that the Hunter Biden money was being funneled through.
Interesting.
Remember a long time ago, we pulled up this kind of graph showing that the money started here, and then it went to this account, and went to this account, and went to this account. This pardon was written to cover everyone who had access to those accounts. Wow. That's literally. These names could have been taken from that document. Oh, what do they have on my family? Oh, they have that they've traced the money. Okay, well, let's pardon everyone who had access to money.
And which these people were probably using that money for who knows what, right? And that becomes the problem here, because they were accessing illegal money for their own gain. I mean, would that be the case? There's so much to unpack here with this, because it would mean that all of the Biden family in some way would have known this money was illegal, or that's what it implies, right?
Yes. Here's the other thing. Hunter, he didn't pardon himself. He didn't pardon Dr. Joe Biden. So
Yeah.
Technically, I expected him to pardon himself for the documents. I expected that. Because that's such low-hanging fruit, right? You get Pam Bondi in, and Pam Bondi says, actually, I've reviewed it. I've reviewed the tapes. He's a president of the United States. He's strong. His own admission, he says he's strong. He's with it. His White House denied the frailty. He can stand trial. Let's go. Let's run it.
Yeah.
Right? Because they've already decided that, no, he was guilty of the crime. The only thing that kept him out of the courtroom is his old grandfatherly demeanor, which they said would probably be sympathetic to a jury. No, all it takes is one Pam Bondi say, no, let's run it.
Yeah.
Let's run it. I thought he would pardon himself for that.
Well, you just pointed out that there's no Jilly Bean pardon there, right? So if she benefited anyway from any of the accounts,
Oh, Jilly Bean. I was about to say, what's a Jilly Bean pardon?
Oh, it's Jilly Bean. That's his little Jilly Bean.
Oh, yeah,
right,
yeah.
Joe Biden. Like, Jilly Bean didn't get charged. I mean, and if she benefited anyway from those accounts, because she would directly be given access to the accounts and money, right? So is that the mistake they've made? Or did they purposely leave Jill to be the sacrificial lamb? That'd be the next part.
I think that they are counting on Donald Trump not doing to them what they did to him.
Yeah.
Again, these are people who believe they occupy in the moral high ground. They could never, Joe Biden could never envision himself being prosecuted for what Donald Trump was prosecuted for. He can't wrap his head around the fact that he committed a felony when he took classified documents out of his Senate office and put them in his garage. He can't wrap his head around the fact that he committed a felony when he took classified documents as vice president and brought them home and put them in his garage and then kept them there for decades. He can't wrap his head around that.
I want to take you back to when Biden's forced out of the race, right? What's-her-face shows up. They have a long conversation with him. And all the people that were pretty much caught up in the Biden family, the only two they don't pardon is him and his wife. Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering if part of the agreement was that if anybody takes a fall, it's both of them. Because somebody has to be the sacrificial lamb. Are they going to go after a guy with dementia? Or they hated Jill so much that they're willing to make her that person? Or she's falling on her sword for it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's that's my feeling on this. Somebody has to go down. Who's going to be the sacrificial lamb?
Yeah.
Because they love that leverage.
Otto von Wienis is acting up again. You operate under the guise that you care for minorities and trans kids, but deep down your hatred and intolerance is blatantly obvious. We have so much more to go to remove racism and hatred. So I care for people, innocent people who just want to make their way in the world, just want a chance to raise a family, work a good, honest job, put food on the table, right? I care about people. I do not care what someone's skin color is. I do not care what someone's sexual proclivities are. I do not care what their fetishes are. I do not care what their DSM diagnosis related to gender is. I do not care. You're absolutely right. I do not care. I care about them as people. I do not care about them as the labels that the Democrat Party and the left have put over them to lump them into the group to try and put them under the Democrat tent. Don't care for that. Care for them as people. The problem in this country for 4 years, then 8 years before that, is that we've taken those labels and we've put far too much emphasis on them. I mean, today's Martin Luther King Day. He dreamed of a non-racial society where the color of your skin doesn't matter. What have we gotten under 8 years of Obama and 4 years of Biden? A very much deliberately racial society where the color of your skin does matter. And that determines whether you get a job. That determines whether you get into a school. That determines whether you get a loan or qualify for government assistance. That is the complete opposite. So you're absolutely right. I do not care about anyone on the basis of their race, gender, creed, unless they are actually legitimately being persecuted for that. Then obviously that is wrong. But the idea that somehow by saying there really are only two genders, that means that's the equivalent of violence against trans kids is insane. It's asinine. It's ridiculous. And the more you people talk about this and try and elevate this as your issue, the more you're going to see the American people reject it, because you can't put that on the table and eat it for dinner.
Well, hey, I was just thinking that Otto von Wienis is probably looking for a pardon themselves and didn't get it. And now they're bitter because you never know who's in.
Yeah. Kenneth says, what did you think Biden was going to do? I thought Biden was going to pardon himself.
Yeah.
I thought, I expected the family. I didn't expect 10 years. That's a little bit weird. I expected Biden to pardon himself. I thought that was very likely.
Was there so many offenses that they had to pick a time frame? Right? Imagine that you can't just name one offense that you're pardoning somebody from. You're pardoning them from everything they did in a 10-year period. Like, you could have been the worst human being doing some of the most awful stuff. I mean, the blanket pardon is really interesting. You could be a complete, fill in the pedo 5, whatever. If you're one of those individuals, you essentially just pardon them for that too. Like, it's crazy the power that pardon would give any offense. I mean, what if it was even treason?
Yeah. Milley was being credibly accused of committing treason against the United States by calling up his Chinese superior and promising that he would not allow the United States to attack China in a situation where war was declared. Wow. That's treasonous. That's treasonous.
Man,
and that's Joe Biden's legacy. That's his legacy now.
On the way out, he didn't do anything else. Here's the other part, is that we know Joe Biden is not all there. Did he actually execute these pardons? Did he do it? And we've talked about this in the other shows we've done.
That's the other thing we could do. You could challenge that. It might be a little hard because he put out a press release and whatnot. It could be a little hard, but you could challenge it. You can also challenge whether or not blanket pardons over decades without naming the crime are constitutional.
I wouldn't even know where to start framing that argument, man. I mean...
Well, no, you don't frame the argument. You charge them. You charge them. Right? And that's the argument. This is the crime they committed. We found it. Joe Biden wouldn't name it, but we found it. This is the crime they committed. Here's their co-conspirators. We've indicted them. We're bringing it to trial. Trial court tosses it out. You appeal it. You appeal it all the way up, and the Supreme Court decides. That's how you do it. That's how you'd have to do it. Right? Otherwise, a pardon is not just forgiveness of crime, but also saying that the American people have no right to know what the crime was.
Yeah, and these are the people that were in charge of our very institutions. Yeah. We have more than a right to know when somebody is committing treason, so we can deal with it, right? We have a right to know when...
Congress has a right to know, so they can write legislation to stop the illegal activity.
Yeah.
Right? Lots of interested bodies have the right to know what happened, but Biden didn't just pardon them. He seemingly tried to protect them from ever revealing what they did.
Are you shocked by the names that weren't pardoned? You know, I'm thinking like a Mayorkas. I'm thinking of some of those other guys. Is that more shocking than the pardons? Or is it vice versa?
I expected a pardon for Michael Cohen, Trump's lawyer. Because he had turned state's evidence against Trump. Mm-hmm. And Trump's basically said, okay, we're going after this effort. It got so bad that, let me see if I can find the clip. Michael Cohen was on MSNBC. MSNBC begging for a pardon. Did you see that?
No. Wow. I wonder if he was in the back room, the back room. Don't worry, we got you, bro. We'll take care of you on the way out. We'll throw one your way. We'll cover 10 years for you.
I'm downloading it right now.
Oh my gosh, that'd be wild though.
It got Cohen's to the point where Michael Cohen was basically saying he was the same as Hunter Biden, needing a pardon, and the people on the panel were like, "Whoa, Hunter Biden is Joe Biden's son. You're not his son." Here's a clip.
No. The pardon? Yeah, I put in the application for a presidential pardon because I believe that Joe Biden has the same responsibility to me that he had to his own son. And I would expect that the same exact pardon that he gave his son has to go to me and to anybody else that's on that enemies list, whether they want it or not. Because I assure you, solitary confinement where I did 51 days sucks.
Oh, you poor son of a bitch.
Michael Cohen, I believe wholeheartedly that the solitary confinement was just a terrible experience for you. And I think your point about the enemies, the proverbial enemies list, right, is a good one. I wonder, have you heard anything back from the administration? It is my understanding that two things. The administration, one, is not going to give a pardon to anybody that doesn't want one. So folks who have prominently gone out and said, I do not want a pardon, the president is not going to issue a pardon to people that don't want one. But two,
they'll change their mind when they're sitting behind closed doors. That I can assure you, they're going to kick themselves in the backside for that one.
I think hindsight will always be 20/20. I guess my question is, have you heard from the Biden administration? And
he didn't get a pardon. No. Here's the enemies list, and it's Kash Patel's enemies list. He's going to be running the FBI in a few days. Michael Atkinson, Lloyd Austin, Brian Outen, James Baker. Remember him?
Oh, my gosh, yeah. You bet.
Bill Barr, John Bolton, Stephen Boyd, Joe Biden, not pardoned. John Brennan, not pardoned. John Carlin, Eric Ciaramella. Remember him? He was the whistleblower.
Oh my God!
Trump
was it really?
Whistleblower inside the statute of limitations.
Holy
he didn't get a pardon. Pat
Cipollone, go down that list. Yeah.
James Clapper. Hillary Clinton, no pardon. Wow. James Comey, Elizabeth Dibble, Mark Esper, Alyssa Farah, Evelyn Farkas, Sarah Isgur Flores, Merrick Garland, no pardon for him. Stephanie Grisham, Kamala Harris, no pardon. Gina Haspel, no pardon. Fiona Hill, Curtis Hyde, Eric Holder, Robert Hur, Cassidy Hutchinson, Nina Jankovic, Lois Lerner, Loretta Lynn. It goes on and on. Andrew McCabe? Yeah, Andrew McCabe.
The Robert Mueller. Bruce. Yeah.
Right? Rosenstein, Weissman, Vindman, the other whistleblower from the other impeachment.
Who's just been elected to the House or the what is he running? He just got elected, right, in Virginia.
Yeah. Either him or his brother, one of the other ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's the enemies list. You'll notice that no one on the enemies list got a pardon. So all this talk about, like, oh, we need pardons for the enemies list.
I'm thinking there might be a big middle finger in the non-pardons. As much as the pardons are a middle finger to say you can't touch my family, imagine all these people now who've been left out to dry, who might have been promised things. Like, there's always backroom talks. That's politics, gang. Don't worry, we'll throw you the pardon on the way out, but it never happens. Oh, Vindman's twin.
Yeah, it was Vindman's twin who won. Yeah, it was one of those assholes. Also not on the list of pardons, Jack Smith. Not pardoned.
Fannie Willis.
What the House has to do is they have to drag everyone pardoned in to testify. They need to rip it out of them. Yeah. They need to subpoena every document they have. They have to go subpoena their accountants, subpoena everyone, right? Their business holdings, subpoena everything, their bank accounts, subpoena it all, go through it, drag them in to testify, lay the perjury traps, and either they fall into the perjury traps or they tell you the truth. Get it on the record.
Yeah.
Get on the record so that this is not just rat holing this and memory holing this so that the American people don't know what's going on. Then you have to go after the other enemies who didn't get pardons. You have to hold them accountable.
Yeah.
And that might be Joe Biden. I mean, if I was in charge of the FBI, DOJ, the first thing I do on day one is I resurrect Joe Biden's documents case.
Yeah.
If it's enough to get it almost to trial for Trump, then it's enough to bring it to trial for Biden.
Okay, so let's say now that they see that they're rats on a sinking ship, and they know the water's coming in fast. So what's happening? Like, who's going to be the first to take a deal? Who are we going to sit here and then suddenly just turn into a new whistleblower, right? And then what if somebody does come forward as a whistleblower to try to get the protections? So my next question is, who's the rat? Like, what's going to happen? Who are they going to squeeze?
Yeah. Anthony Fauci didn't act alone. You know that he acted in concert with pharmaceutical companies.
Could you imagine?
Right?
Oh my gosh.
He wasn't the one actually financing it. It was all going through grants. He was the one actually doing the experiments. Dude. So yeah, no, there's a lot to do there. But you got to take that first step. You got to drag them and testify, or at the very least, or even charge them and test it.
Right. And the other thing is that they're going to have to hire their own lawyers. They're going to do exactly what they did to General Flynn. You could bankrupt them just by dragging them into court constantly, right? They know there's so much on the line. Seeing Hillary Clinton's name on that list makes me really interested what they do have on her. How much of it was suppressed for the past 12 years, right? Wow, could you imagine the kind of names that'll go down?
We have the parade. It's weird saying this. The parade is starting. We have the different bands playing. I guess that's the Marine Corps band playing for all these people, 20,000 people. They've started finding the leftists in the crowd. The reason that they have these things last, like they opened the doors this morning early. The reason they had people sitting in there for 5 hours, 6 hours, it's because the leftists can't hide that long.
Yeah.
Like the pink hat people can't hide for 6 hours. Mm-hmm. Like I was just watching a video of one popping up and cursing out someone. Okay, thanks. Bye-bye. Go back to mommy.
All right.
Shandy Pants says, is there an argument that these pardons are invalid because Biden didn't have the mental capacity to understand what he was signing? Tough sell, I'm sure, but still. Yeah, there is. This is a test, right? The pardon power is pretty unlimited. It's pretty open-ended. But we've also never had someone try to pardon people, blanket pardons over a decade plus, who's obviously in the throes of dementia. Never happened before, right? So if this was something as simple as Joe Biden rewriting his will to disinherit one of his sons, like his son, that would get challenged, right? That would get challenged in court. Your Honor, my father doesn't have the mental capacity to understand. A document was put in front of him. He signed it. He didn't know what he was signing. That would fit. The question is whether that same logic can be applied to a pardon. It's like any other legal document. It should, but the Constitution doesn't say only presidents of stable mental status can do this, right? It says any president. He could be a vegetable. Wake up one day, see a pardon slip, and just scribble on it. It's done, right? It's done. He could be in the middle of a fugue state, not know where he is, running naked on the south lawn. Someone hands him a pardon paper, he signs it, it's done, right?
Yeah. Oh, I don't know, man. There's so much going on, and with what's happening today, I don't think they're going to waste any time. I think by this evening, we're going to start hearing things happening. Like, he's going to mobilize in a way that I don't think a president's done before, because he knows what he has to do.
I think that Shandy Pants saying it, Mike Johnson said he didn't know what EOs he had signed. That's right. I think one way, I've always been interested in this. It's never really been challenged to that effect. It would be interesting to look at his signature on these pardons and to see whether he signed it or whether they auto-penned it. Because if they auto-penned it, then the argument that he didn't really do this gets a little bit greater, right? Because not only did he not actually sign it, but then you can say he not only did he not sign, he doesn't have the mental fitness to sign it, right? But then he would say, listen, these are my family members. Of course I want to protect my family members. I could be completely lost my mind, and I'd still want to protect my family members. So it's a tough thing, right? But I think everything that Biden's done, at least stretching back to Trump's debate, should be challenged, because that's when all of this information started coming out and you can prove it.
And there's another part, is that some of the tests that they give you for dementia is they have you sign your name. And as you decline, you start seeing a change in the way they sign their name. Like there would be, if they've been monitoring the way I think they have been, there's probably a precipitous drop on that. So they would make the argument that they had to auto-sign it because he's incapable of signing it, which would mean that he's incapable of signing, right? I mean, that would be the argument.
This is going to be the last day. This is going to be the last day that we're going to talk about Joe Biden, because we have so much to do.
Yeah.
So much to do. Unless he gets indicted, then we'll talk about him some more. But we wanted to talk about this because it did kind of get swept under the rug with the pomp and circumstance of the inauguration of, he tried to slip this. He slipped this through. He didn't try. He succeeded. He slipped this through in the last minute of his presidency. It needs to get covered. It needs to get talked about. Hit that share button. Give us a thumbs up. Comment if you haven't already. Like, follow us. More people need to know about this because I was watching Fox and they gave it like 30 seconds. Because they have no choice because they have to go right through the pomp and circumstance. Speech ends. Trump goes to the other room and gives another speech. It's never happened before.
All part of the plan.
It's never happened before. You've never had a president give a speech, leave, and just go give another speech. Then where'd he go? He went to a signing ceremony. Then where'd he go? He went to lunch and gave a toast. Then where'd he go? He went to watch the troops and the bands. Now where's he going? He's going to this ceremony. I'm pointing at it. This ceremony where they're playing music for the crowds. If he had done it yesterday, it'd be all we're talking about. But because he did it during the event, that's when they released it.
Yeah. Planned, calculated, and typical for the Joe Biden presidency.
As we wrap up, I'm going to take the final word this time. I usually give it to you.
Yeah.
Breaking news out of the White House, according to Eric Doherty and the Associated Press, Vivek Ramaswamy will not serve on the Department of Government Efficiency. There have been some reports that he had worn out his welcome. The discussion about H-1B visas, unnecessarily inserting that into the conversation with a couple weeks to go, didn't help. Criticizing American culture. The last thing Trump wants to do is have someone saying that, the culture of wanting to be the prom king and prom queen is toxic and bad. Now, that's Trump's whole machismo, right? Right?
America first.
Yeah. He's like, oh no, you want to be the prom king. That's the way to go. So it looks like he's out. The other thing is it looked like Trump tried to get him into the Senate seat. He didn't get it. Now it looks like he's going to run for governor in Ohio. So that's kind of like the golden parachute.
Yeah.
Of, hey, you know what? We're going to let you go, but don't worry. We're going to support you in this governor run.
I'm sure he'll be fine no matter what happens.
Yeah, well,
I'm sure he'll be fine.
The conservatives claimed a scalp, right?
Yeah.
He came out for H-1B visas. And conservatives, we're like, what are you talking about? No one voted for that. Hire American, right?
Yeah.
Not hire Indian.
Yeah.
We did a whole show on how India has like the most open defecation in the world. And when he's like, we American culture is bad, we need these people. Like, they were shitting in the streets last week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, what are you doing? Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good day. Good days on the horizon.
Shandy says, bring it on, gents. Bright days ahead. Thanks for another banger. Like, share, subscribe. Yes, like, share, subscribe. If you like the podcast, do that. Follow us. We also have the audio edition of the podcast available everywhere. We go live Monday, Wednesday, Friday, YouTube, X, Rumble. So tune in for that. That's it for this edition. My name is Max McGuire.
I'm Josh Ammerling.
Remember, the fight to take back the country, it feels like we're winning right now. But it's no time to get complacent. The only way we win is if we all keep fighting together. See you next time.